Finally, all of the things that I've discussed to this point really only lead to what is the ultimate objective. And the ultimate objective is the Arctic Permanent Investment Vehicle. Now, I will tell you that this has taken on many names. Some people think it should be an Arctic Development Bank. Some people think that it should be some sort of a private equity fund. And based upon conversations that I've had with leaders throughout the world and with major institutional investors, the real need is for a permanent investment vehicle which will be there for the long term to act to finance investment throughout the Arctic. I pause to use the phrase Arctic Development Bank because development banks historically have been the domain of governments and supranational entities. This will be the first investment vehicle, if we are successful, which will represent a permanent financial institution that has ever been undertaken in a public-private partnership. And we are talking to leading investors throughout the world, and in some conversations that I've had, there have been discussions of capitalization for this company by one investor of up to $30 billion. So the amount of capital that would be available for this project, if we are successful, could range into the hundreds of billions of dollars. There is a great deal of interest in seeing this being done in a public-private format as a means to attract capital from the private sector alongside of governments. To give you a sense of how this vehicle would work, what we've done here is diagrammed how one transaction would look in the event that we were financing an opportunity. So you can see that this, which is the development bank, would basically have $1 of capital, or if you would like, if it makes you feel better, let's call it $1 million of capital, that they would invest in a project. And on its balance sheet, like any commercial bank, it would borrow money, and it could provide $3 of capital from borrowed money. That capital gets invested into a project by the development bank, and then we bring in other outside investment from the private sector to support a total investment of $12 million. The host government for the project, by virtue of the fact that this economic activity is occurring within a government's domicile, we estimate would have tax benefits to the local government of $1 to $3 or $1 to $3 million or whatever that was. I don't know if I can get that back. Let's see. There we go. So the bottom line is that this vehicle demonstrates that how we can take, on a relative basis to the size of the investment, a small amount of capital, turn it into a substantial amount of capital, and how local governments throughout the world can benefit as a result of having this sort of project occur within their boundaries. So this is I would say, a grand vision. It is not what I originally thought I was signing up for 4 years ago when I traipsed around the Arctic. But it is very apparent to me that the opportunity in the Arctic is massive, the need is massive, and that policymakers and private investors have been very slow to respond to the planning and the scale of investment which is necessary. And if, as we go along by working very closely with President Grimson in the Arctic Circle, working very closely with the World Economic Forum, our plan would be to announce in January January, the Arctic Investment Protocol and those people who have endorsed the protocol as a responsible way to act in the Arctic. We will complete the Arctic investment inventory by next year sometime, and of course the Arctic investment inventory will never be complete. It'll be a living, breathing inventory. And then ultimately, our plan would be to, in sometime 2016 or so, to begin the process of raising the capital for a permanent investment vehicle, which could be substantial in size and would reshape the amount of resources available for infrastructure and economic development throughout the Arctic region. By God's grace and blessing, we cannot fail. So we place all of our hope firmly in His hands and ask for His guidance in the course of the things that we are undertaking now for the benefit of the people of the Arctic and the world. Thank you.
Well, Scott, thank you very much. Great eye-opener this morning. Our next speaker is Hugh Short, who is co-founder, chairman, and CEO of PT Capital. As I explained last night, PT Capital is both a firm that has a private equity fund, the first private equity fund focused on the Arctic, as well as an advisory practice helping companies raise and restructure capital. Hugh, please.
Okay. Well, just full disclosure, Scott and I did not coordinate our presentations this morning. So, my name's Hugh Short. I am the co-founder, CEO of PT Capital. I often tell my friends, if you want to do something incredibly difficult, go out and try and start the first investment bank and the first private equity fund based in Alaska. It's been a couple years since I co-founded this firm, and really it's an honor to stand up here today and have Guggenheim Partners as a partner with PT Capital, and really proud of that partnership. So Scott Minard, thanks so much for your confidence in our team. Before I get started, I read an article, and a couple important people sitting in the back right corner, Senator Lyman Hoffman and Myron Nanning from the YK Delta. I had the fortunate blessing of being born in Bethel. I had the fortunate blessing of being the mayor of Bethel for a while. And I read an article that perhaps this conference or policymakers are not taking into consideration the YK Delta. And while I got the stage, I'm going to say that the YK Delta is very important in this conversation. Infrastructure poor, it is part of the Arctic, and it's an important part of the state. Back in 2002, I had a sandwich shop, a Subway. And it's all sorts of jokes now with Jared Fogle in the situation, but back in 2002, I opened up the first sandwich shop and fast food franchise in Bethel, something I always wanted to do as a child. Alice Rogoff walked in, and I was working the lunch rush. I made her a sandwich. I believe Fran Ulmer was with you. I sat down with you, ate a sandwich. She said, I'm Alice Rogoff. I said, I'm Hugh Short. She left. She went to her next meeting, which was at YKHC, the Health Corp. I was in the boardroom. We sat down. We talked about health and healthcare. She left that meeting, and she went to go visit the city of Bethel, and I was the mayor. And she sat down, and she said, are you stalking me? And a really great friendship and partnership has started since 2002. I've known Alice a long time, and thank you so much for being a mentor to me. The other person I want to recognize before I get too deep into my presentation, the Chinese have a term called guanxi, and I look over at Yishu Shu, who's from Shanghai and works at PT Capital. And guanxi is really a term about your network, your social network, your business network, people who know you. And I can tell you, since Meade Treadwell joined the firm after leaving the lieutenant governor, I feel like I've gained a few hundred, actually, let me say a few thousand new friends. Meade has more guanxi than anyone I know. He has a big guanji. Am I using this correctly? All right, thank you. And he's really brought a whole lot of new thinking, energy, and excitement to PT Capital. And so, thank you for your confidence in our firm. Thank you for coming to the firm. You know, PT Capital, when I first conceived this idea, I was working at ASRC, and I had been there for almost 7 years, the better part of 7 years. I left ASRC and really with two missions. One was to create a FINRA-registered investment bank. The second was to create the first ever blind pool private equity fund based in Alaska. I can say that a couple years later now, we are there. It took me longer than I would like. I am much older, much worse shape. But we really have over the past couple years. So I generally am afraid when regulators knock on the door. We had a regulator visit us last spring. A gentleman came to the door from the state of Alaska, said, "I'm with the Securities Division, state of Alaska." I said, "Oh, geez, well, come on in, sir." And brought him into the boardroom, and I said, "Well, is there a problem? Is there an issue? Did we not file some paperwork? Did we not do something?" He goes, "No, I just wanted to know who were the people who opened the first FINRA-registered investment bank based in Alaska. We've never had this happen, so I had to come down and visit you folks." So we're very proud to have that. We have a security license, a great company led by Rich Monroe. Back of the room, please stand up, Rich. Rich Monroe is the CEO of PT Securities. And so just wanted to do a shout out for that. There's another group I want to recognize, which is Luna Corporation. I sat down with Hugh Putkatuk, about 18 months, maybe 2 years ago now almost. And Hugh had came on board as the president of Luna Corporation. We sat down. He had the confidence to make an investment into our company at a seed stage, at a time when, a lot of people wouldn't have the confidence. Luna came in. We've had a great partnership, Hugh, with you and Mike Moore and the rest of your team. As we sit here today, we need to recognize that there is drilling going on 62 miles from your village, which could change the world, change our world. And I know you guys are sitting on pins and needles, sort of sitting there waiting for a text or an email or an update, but we are in a very exciting time. On the other side of town, over here, we have a group of people negotiating for a gas line. Governor Walker appointed me to the Gas Line Development Corporation Board. They are trying to come to an agreement. And another game changer for the state of Alaska and for the world. So as we sit here and talk about the Arctic, there are two very monumental events going on that could suck up all of that money that you're talking about. I'm going to jump into my presentation here, hopefully. Maybe not. Oh. And why is Bethel not on this map? While that comes up, I have a number of my team members here. We got a staff of about 12. If you work for PT Capital, could you stand up? There's Sarah Lukeen, Yishu, Rich Monroe, maybe Andy Max in the room, Meade Treadwell. Very proud to have a great team, and so thank you for coming down here. I could tell some jokes.
May I take the mic while you're waiting?
Sure.
Explain what's on this map.
Okay.
For the benefit of all of you who are offended by what is or is not on this map, this map is something I have used when giving talks about the Arctic development needs of Alaska, which means by definition, the only places labeled here are coastal communities directly on the coast. And that's why Bethel is not on the map. Not because it isn't an important port, but it's an inland port.
Thank you.
Okay.
Juneau is not on there either.
I actually had that thought. Juneau is not on there. I think I may add Juneau because it is a port that is terrifically important, as we know, in the tourism industry. So for my next iteration, add Juneau. Sorry? And Skagway, correct.
Any other requests while she's taking notes? All right.